Good evening. My name is Alexander. I am the head instructor of Aikijujutsu at the T.N.T School of Martial Arts. And today we're going to go over some knife work. This is a little bit premature, right? We usually save knife work for much later in the curriculum. You get into knife work when you get into weapon stuff, and that's well after a bunch of other foundational things. However, a good friend of mine asked me to put this up so that she could use it. So here we go. We try not to get too complicated here with knife work. The blade is relatively simple. The pointy end goes into the other man. I understand there are some styles that are a little more complicated than that, but we don't do it that way. And those styles are awesome. So we fight. Right? We utilize a knife out of 2 stances and 2 grips. Okay. The offensive is freehand leading, right? Knife at the ready. The reason why we have that as offensive is because I don't want my opponent to get away, right? I want to latch onto them and hold onto them and then feed them the blade. Defensive, I'm almost using the blade as a shield. I'm hiding behind it. I want to give my opponent ample room to disengage, okay? That doesn't mean I'm going to ticky-tack. I still want to make valid cuts, but I want, if they make the decision to retreat, I want to give them that opportunity, right? Don't back your enemy into a corner, otherwise they're going to fight twice as hard to get out, right? Plus, one can turn into the other. Slash, grab, and then feed them the blade, or disengage and then get behind my knife. Right? Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. That's my bad. So, 2 grips. We use a hammer grip and an ice pick grip. The only thing I'm going over today is the hammer grip. We're going to keep it nice and simple. All right, so we use 10 different angles of attack, okay? And those angles of attack, you can shrink that bubble or grow that bubble to any size and move that around the target or the opponent, right? So we always want to keep the points of our knife oriented at our opponent, because the most devastating blow is the stab, is to stick, as much of the knife into them as possible. Like cuts are a little bit more dynamic, but stabs get the job done. Okay, so the first cut you're going to do is from the top to bottom, just a vertical cut. All right, I'm going to reach out with the blade, rake down, and pull the blade back toward me. Nice and simple. After that, we're going to cut along the diagonals. Right, I'm just going to draw an X. So I'm going to start on my knife side. Like I'm cutting in between the L, like between the head and the, I want to say sternocleidomastoid, shoulder, there we go, trapezius, right, in that L, I want to hit inside that box, slash across, and then pull my blade back, still keeping my end oriented toward my opponent. All right, from that, we're going to do the other side of the L, right, reach out, rake across, pull my blade back. Right? So vertical, diagonal, diagonal. Okay? Now we're going to run that X in reverse. I'm going to turn my knife down, go up like I'm trying to come underneath their arm into the ribs, rake up past that same L, and I'm going to pull my knife back. Okay? From that point, I'm going to do the opposite side. Strike in. I'm trying to cut underneath the ribs, rake out the L, and I'm going to pull my knife back. Okay? So we have a vertical cut, 2 diagonals from the top, 2 diagonals from the bottom. Okay? Now all we're leaving out is our horizontal. So horizontal, reach out sideways, cut across, pull my knife back. Once I get to that point, I'm going to run it in reverse. Horizontal, cut across, pull my knife back. Okay? So, vertical, diagonal, reverse diagonal, horizontal. Okay? Now, next one, I'm going to enter the blade, and I'm going for the soft meat. Sideways into the ribs is okay. You want to turn your blade to the side so it slips between ribs. But this one, we're going to go into the soft meat below the ribs, into the stomach, right? Because we're going to give it a twist, right? So in, twist, and then pull back. Right? If you slip in between the ribs and then try and twist your knife, there's a potential that it could snap. I mean, there's always a potential it could snap, but a greater potential in between the ribs, right? Something hard versus something squishy. Now, from this side, again, I'm driving in with my blade flat. I'm going to twist and then pull the knife back. Okay, and the final one is blade vertical, straight into the center. So I believe that's 10. So vertical, 1, diagonal, 2, 3. Reverse diagonal, 4, 5. Horizontal, 6, 7. Insert the blade twist, 8, 9. Blade vertical, strike. Okay? And you notice I'm keeping this hand up here near the chest as like a reference point. And the reason I do that is because I don't want something else out there while I'm using my knife, right? Especially if things start flying, right? I don't want to get my hand stuck. So, keep it here. I can always check or reach out and grab if I need it, but if I'm just playing with the knife, I want to keep my hand somewhere close to my body, right? Now, the way you would go about using those, you're not going to sit, I guess you wouldn't be sitting in front of an opponent just trying to go through the drill, right? I mean, I guess you could in practice, but in practical application, you wouldn't want to do it like that. You would want to mix, what is that? A slash with a stab, because ultimately you're trying to get to the stab, right? So if I go for my vertical cut, I can go for my vertical strike. If I go for my diagonal cut, I can go for my horizontal strike, or my flat blade stab, right? So cut and then stab, right? Cut and then stab. You know, you can mix up cuts and then stab, right? 1, 2, 3, excuse me. Right? Vertical, stab, diagonal, horizontal, then stab, right? So the idea is to be dynamic, understand what you want to try to accomplish, right? If I need to use the blade, I'm not trying to play with them. I'm trying to get the strike and make it as deadly as possible. So I want to get the insertion as soon as possible, right? I want to make a caveat, right? When you see, because we'll have drills where we're doing knife versus knife, okay? And when you see knife versus knife, understand that that is not meant to be used. I have a knife, you have a knife, or my opponent has a knife, right? It is not meant to be used like that. The only reason you will see knife versus knife is so you will have two people working on the same drill, okay? A knife is a weapon, and the weapon is meant to make your attacks more than your opponent. Excuse the pun, it's to have an edge over your opponent, right? It's to give you an advantage. If he has a knife and I have a knife, I don't have an advantage, okay? Now, if he has a knife, I'd much rather have a knife than nothing, but it should give you the advantage. This would be a tool that you would use against somebody that doesn't have a knife, right? And you would need to, I don't want to say even the playing field, but you want to have a one-up on them, okay? So if they're barehanded, you have a knife. If they have a knife, you have a gun. If they have a gun, you have a bigger gun. You get me? If they have a really big gun, you have body armor and something to run them over with, right? I get off on a tangent. So when you see the knife versus knife, understand that it's not knife versus knife. It's just two people working the same drill, okay? And also, the knife should not be seen, it should just be felt, okay? If I'm using it, I'm not gonna brandish it, right? Because then that changes my opponent's mind. I don't wanna do that, okay? My knife should come out when I need it. I don't want any trouble, and then I get to push to the point where I need my blade, I reach for my blade, and they're already cut. They should be cut before they realize I had something in my hand. You get me? We run drills in here where we're grappling and wrestling, and both people have knives, right? And you get to draw your knife anytime you see fit, and the person has to perceive that and try and stop you from doing that, or deploy his own, and we're trying to stop each other. So before I get too deep into the woods, I'm going to save the other things for later videos. You'll see me come in when I have a partner. We'll do some of the partner drills and some of the grappling drills or wrestling drills where one person has a knife and then they deploy it, and we'll get into that later. So until then, enjoy this, and thank you for watching.